Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Young here, and today I'm back in our Fortnite video. In today's video, I'm going to give you guys some very good tips that you guys can use whenever you guys change to new settings. So if you guys just change your settings, maybe you're changing new binds, new sensitivities, whatever the case may be, I'm going to give you guys the best tips that I can to help you guys change binds very easily. Because whenever you guys change binds or settings, it can be a pain to get used to. So I'm going to show you guys all the techniques and tips that I use to really help me out when it comes to changing new binds, so I can get used to the binds very quickly and I can play even better in this game very fast. And real quick, before we get into the video, I have a V-Buck giveaway. I give away 2,000 V-Bucks every single Friday. So if you guys want to take part in this giveaway, all you guys have to do is to drop a like on this video. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys do turn on those post notifications so you guys get notified for every single new video and when I announce the giveaway winners. And lastly, make sure you guys do comment down below either your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account, and you guys will be automatically entered into my next giveaway. So if you want some free V-Bucks, make sure you guys do enter. And also, if you guys like to support me in the item shop, all you guys have to do is go down to the bottom, click on support a creator, type in my code. My creator code is Young Humor, and you guys will have me added and supported as a creator. And alright guys, let's get right to the video. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to give you guys some very easy tips that you guys can follow when it comes to changing new binds in this game, because changing new binds is always a pain. If you guys ever change your build button, your jump button, or maybe you change like your pickaxe from, maybe on the D-pad over to Y, whatever the case may be, maybe you change up a few binds, it can be a pain to get used to. And so I'm going to help you guys out a ton and show you guys the fastest way to get used to new binds, because I too change my sensitivity in binds from time to time. I actually haven't changed my binds since season 2, except for when I did a week and a half ago. I changed my bottom right paddle from build over to my left stick for build. So I did make a change and it took me a minute to get used to, but I made this change for about a week and a half and I do feel very comfortable on my new binds. So the first thing I want to talk about is changing your sensitivity. I'll also show you guys the sensitivities that I have. So when it comes to changing your sensitivity, this is a little bit easier to get used to than changing your binds. So when it comes to changing your sensitivity, what I would recommend if you do want to make that decision is the best way to really change your sensitivity and not really affect your gameplay too bad is to make your changes little by little. And so what I mean by that, say you play on a very high building, or say you play on a high sensitivity, and what you don't want to do is if you play on a high sensitivity, immediately switch it to the lowest possible sensitivity that you can play on. Otherwise, it'll feel really bad and awkward, and same vice versa. If you play on a low sensitivity and want to try out a high sensitivity, you really don't want to make the change right away. So what you want to do instead is, say for example, you play on a 60% for your look and vertical. I think you have to be horizontal and vertical sensitivity. Your X and Y sensitivity, you play on a 60%. And if you want to play on a lower sensitivity, what I would recommend is that you lower it down from maybe 60 to no less than like a 55. So I would only lower it a few points at a time. So you go from 60 to like a 57. If you think that's not enough, then you go back to 55. So I would lower it little by little, because the more changes that you make, or the higher changes you make to your sensitivities, the longer it's going to take to get used to it. So as far as my settings, if you guys are curious and want to try them out, in my opinion, they're the best settings in the game. I have a 2.3 building and editing sensitivity. My horizontal and vertical speed is a 46%. I have no boost on anything. My aim down sight sensitivity is on 11%. I think that's a very good, and it helps me hit a lot of shots from long ranges. No look dampening time. I did take it off a few days ago just because of the new changes with the aim assist. I thought it was a really necessary change. My dead zones are a 10% on the move stick dead zone. And then my look stick dead zone is a 9%, and then my foot controller setting, I have that off. But like I mentioned, if you are looking to change your sensitivity, I would recommend changing it little by little. If you make a big change, it's going to take longer to get used to. You're going to be missing way more shots, and it's really just going to be a pain. It's going to take you weeks to really have the sensitivity down. So that's my tips as far as the sensitivity. But when it comes to binds, these are a little bit more tricky, because from my experience, changing binds takes a very long time. When I say very long, I really mean, you can sort of have it down in a few days, but I would say to really have it as efficiently as you want, I would say at least 1 to 2 weeks for new binds. So that's why I try to change my binds as little as possible, just because it takes so long to get used to. But I did want to make a big change for my building bind. So if you guys missed earlier, I talked about I changed my build bind from my bottom right paddle and I move it to left stick. I find this to be way more comfortable and I like it a lot. So what you want to do is, if you change a bind, so for me, an example, I changed my build bind And for me, what I started doing to really practice this binds a ton was to go in creative and practice my free builds. But when I was practicing my free builds, I wasn't just practicing building. What I was doing is I was practicing my building, but I was also, every single build that I did, I would try to come in and out of my switch mode, because that was the bind I changed. If you want to get used to your binds, you have to really have that muscle memory down of clicking the bind. So as you can see here, what I was doing is when I was cranking 90s, I'm switching in and out of my switch mode every single time. So every single time I crank a 90, I press left stick. So for me, it really helps me get down the muscle memory of pressing left stick over and over again. And the same could be said if you change your jump button. What you want to do is you want to press your jump button as much as possible, so you have it down as quickly as possible. So if you change your jump button, for example, you want to practice editing, you want to practice free building, you want to practice just everything you can aiming while jumping. So whenever you change a bind, you want to press it as many times as you can, because all it comes down to is muscle memory. And when you change a new bind, you really have absolutely no muscle memory of that bind. So when you're practicing, you want to practice as many movements as you can while with that new bind. So for example, when I had the build bind, what I did is I practiced taking walls, pressing out my build, editing, pressing out my build, pressing in and out of my builds between. I really practiced everything I possibly could, and I would say usually it takes about 3 weeks to really have something down, but I was able to be very, very efficient with my new bind within maybe say a week, just because of the way I was practicing my builds and edits. And of course it does take time, so if you're only playing like 20 minutes a day, it's going to take longer to get used to a bind than say if you played maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. So that's also something to keep in mind, is when you change binds, it really just takes time. There's really no secret trick to it, but if you want to improve on that bind or sensitivity as fast as possible, then that's what you have to do. You have to practice a ton, and at the same time, you really want to practice spamming that new bind as much as possible, so you can really get the feel of how everything is. Because when I switched my binds, it just felt completely different. Not only did I used to have it on a paddle, so I was used to pressing paddles every time. Now I press left stick, which is a completely different feeling control, and it was just a big mess to get used to at first. There was just certain movements that were really awkward for me. So what I did is in games, I just played how I normally played. I did as best as I could, but when I practiced in creative, the more awkward a movement is, the more you want to practice it, because when you change binds, at least for me, there's some movements that are really easy to do, and there's certain other movements that are a little bit more awkward than others. So when you're practicing, you really want to practice the most awkward movements as you can, and that's really going to help you improve very quickly. So for example, for me, when I changed my build button, really the first thing that felt really awkward to me was jumping and building at the same time, because I jump with my bottom left paddle. So when I was in creative, I was practicing jumping while pressing my build bind at the same time, just because it was just so awkward for me. And I feel like as of right now, I'm pretty comfortable. I can jump and build at the same time very easily, but at first it was just super awkward. I kept messing it up time and time again, but I feel like as of now, I'm pretty comfortable with my new binds. So basically, just to sum it all up, if you guys change your sensitivities or looking to change from like a low sensitivity to high sensitivity, I would recommend only changing by a few points here and there, just so if you make a drastic change, it's going to take much longer to get down that muscle memory, and it's going to be a lot harder to change your sensitivity. So if you change your sensitivity, I only recommend changing a few points at a time. That's going to really help you guys out changing your sensitivity while also still playing very good. Now, if you guys do change binds, like I said, this is a little bit more tricky. When you do change binds, you want to practice using that bind and only that bind as much as possible. So if you change your jump button, for example, then you want to be in creative and you want to practice jumping in any sort of scenario like building, editing, or you can even play box fights or zone wars with friends, because if you just change a bind and then immediately go into a solo game, you're just going to get really, really frustrated, because you're going to keep misclicking. You're going to click your old button and it's just going to be a pain to get used to. So I recommend just going in creative and practicing spamming that bind as much as possible, and I think that's going to be the best way to improve, and also the best way to get used to new binds and sensitivities if you guys do decide to change them. So with that being said, that's wrap it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys liked it, make sure you guys do hit that like button. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Make sure you guys do turn on those post notifications so you guys get notified for every single new video. And as well, I do live stream here on this channel every single day at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want to watch me play solos on stream, if you guys want to watch my live streams, make sure you guys do so. They're a ton of fun. Like I said, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every single day here on this channel. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching the video, and alright guys, I'll see you next video.